Here is the back garden. I'm having to deal with sand again, as you might remember from our previous property on the date farm. I had to deal with non-existent soil. It was just soft sand, really salty, and I had nightmares. So this this was easy for me to get set up, obviously, because I had experience with the last place. I just threw a few bags of peat moss down, mixed it with the sand, and then compost directly onto these beds. I've put in 4 beds at the moment, 3 in use, 1 I'll talk about later on. I used leftover heel curbs for the edging of bed 1, which I'm going to change to timber. Reason being is I just want everything to be the same, and obviously these were leftovers, and I'm going to probably use this heel curb to do the edging. There's going to be a metre deep channel around the edge all the way to the back as well, where I plant some trees and shrubs, and then the rest will be grassed out and then some wood chips in between these beds to make it look a little bit more pretty. I stopped watering today because I think I was giving too much water to these. My pepper was having some issues. This is a Hungarian yellow X. There's some bird shit on there or something. It was doing amazingly. It's grown really well, and all the flowers dropped off. And yes, last night when I went through and went into the soil, I realised, let's see here, it's really wet, and it's sand underneath as well, and the sand is quite wet. So I just decided to turn off the water for a couple of days. I have probably around 10 or 12 different types of tomatoes at the moment, at various stages. One of these is a black cherry, one is a white cherry, I believe. I have this bed here. I built this PVC trellis with metre-long rebar halfway pushed into the soil, and then these pumped in with fish hooks. So this will be for tomatoes and peppers interplanted. Those Carolina Reapers will go in there. This bed is a mix of brassicas, lettuces, and beets and radishes. I usually number everything and keep a record so I know what's what and where. And then for this bed, I just went in and dumped everything in. So I know what's in it, I just don't remember what is inside. This bed, I had a different idea for. I wanted to do a line of trellises for melons, cucumbers, watermelons, anything that sort of vines. And I made these really simple, like easily and cheap. Just 1.8 meter bamboo sticks, and I just interwove it into this green garden mesh. I literally had them up in the space of, I think it took me 5 minutes to do each one, and I just have 3 simple trellises, and they just get tapped into I just knocked them in with a brick, and they're in directly into the ground. And on the back side, there are carrots in here which haven't germinated yet, and at the back there I've got some more radishes and beetroot, and at the back there I've got some arugula, which I'll show you in a second. So this is a sweetie variety of tomato. I kind of messed this up because I've got some fruit here. Well, one tomato, I knocked off the other bloody things, but I had some issues with leaf miners, which I treated. I actually didn't know what they were at first. I just thought it was some residue that had fallen off the tree. So I will take these off, but I did treat it, and now, as you can see, that issue has been resolved. But I to cut off the suckers for this, and it sort of just went into a bit of shock. I think I did too much at once. So yeah, got some arugula and some rocket at the back there that's growing. So you can see this got watered last night. I turned off the irrigation, it's still wet from last night, so it is an indication that it's too much water. I've had issues. I don't know what these are. I do actually. This is a radish. Let's come in and clean all this. Let's just throw them into the compost. I need to do a bit of a clean up. As you can see, I was up the tree. We have issues with getting enough sunlight in this garden long enough. So as the sun passes over, that's west that way. So I was not getting enough light into this side of the garden here. So I decided to go ahead and chop down half of this tree and try and, it's okay if it just grows taller, but this side was not getting enough sun. So I just dumped everything into this bed. It's not really a compost heap, even though there is food scraps and leaves, dry leaves and wet leaves in there. I had the irrigation over it as well, just to give it some water. I was considering doing composting in this pit. As you can see, I dug it out, but the idea is that I'm going to cover this up now. I'm just going to give it a couple of days to sort of decompose a little bit. It is quite dry, even though it looks green from here. This will get covered with the sand again, and when I go to use this bed next year, hopefully some of this stuff would have decomposed and I wouldn't have to it would give loads of beautiful nutrient rich soil for me underneath, which would be quite cool. And all this is going to be leveled off. I'm going to put a lawn in here for some chill. These hoops were just made for some PVC, and I made a tunnel because I had issues before in the last property with birds eating seedlings, and I decided to use just this net curtain from our swing, daybed swing, to use, and the wife stitched everything together and we threw it over and secured it with stones and bricks, which did the job. And so now that's off. Now you're probably wondering, how do we plant here in the desert? As you can see, there's sand everywhere. We put this compost on top, which will give all the nutrients and the microbes, but down below it's sand. With the irrigation system, you can see it's quite wet. Even though it's well draining, I've been overwatering this by mistake. But the simple answer is, I'm going to plant this tomatillo right now. A handful of compost into the hole. Let's try if we can do this one-handed. In you go, little fella. The pros and cons of this garden is it's a lot smaller than what I'm used to, so it's easier to manage. Obviously it needs to be fixed. There's a lot of work to do, but it doesn't get that much sun, so that's bad, but it's also good because it won't be as hot in the summer. It'll be shaded, but I probably still will have to use some form of shade cloth just to keep it cool. And this is my first real urban farm or urban garden at this scale, so I just got to be careful a little bit. In the farm it was better, we had more breeze because it was open around. Here, as you can see, there's just 4 walls, or 3 walls in a house, and the neighbour's Plumeria. So we don't get much airflow in here, so I might have to put some fans in. But yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and plant these other tomatoes. And I've got a Black Diamond sweet corn, Black Diamond watermelon that's going to go into that trellis bed there.